Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tax Show for People Who Owe. I'm Dave.
And I'm Phil.
And April is behind us. Does that mean that tax season's behind us?
Tax season's never behind us, Dave.
It's always happening, especially if you owe taxes. So we thought we'd talk to you about 3 things you should be aware of if you owe taxes now that we are beyond April. Phil, what are some of those 3 things we should really consider?
The top of mind topic is penalties and interest, Dave. If
always.
you haven't paid, your due date to pay has already passed on by past April 17th this year. So every month you're going to be accruing 0.5% on your unpaid liabilities every month up until 25%.
25%? That sounds like a steal.
Some may call that a deal when you look at the failure to file penalty, Dave. If you haven't filed your extension, you're going to be accruing a 4.5% every month. So you're going to cap out very fast.
Oh, like those percentages are adding up pretty quickly here. Now, do
Absolutely.
those keep going or did they stop? You said they stopped.
Yeah, a combined total of 47.5% is what you're looking at for failure to file and failure to pay.
And that's just penalties.
And that's just penalties.
Okay, interest is also a very relevant topic, especially now. Why?
Absolutely, because over the past 2 years, we've seen interest rates almost double, from as low as 3.5% to near 8% right now.
Wow, that's dramatic. So you've been sitting on the sidelines, whether you filed or not, your balance is increasing much faster than it would have before these raises?
Absolutely, Dave.
Okay, so let's talk about another important topic, especially since your balance may be increasing. What does that, Phil?
Passport revocation. Now, if you want to travel overseas, you need a passport. What does that have to do with the IRS? IRS now can deny the renewal of your passport application, or even if you're applying for the first time.
Okay, so who's subject to this revocation and what can they expect?
Great question, Dave. If you have $59,000, including penalties and interest of unpaid taxes, you're going to be subject to what they call IRS debt certification. And that's who the IRS is looking at when they're denying these passports.
How do I know I'm subject to that?
1 or 2 ways. You apply for a passport, and in response, you get a 508C letter from the IRS, or you find out from the State Department that it's been denied.
So that'd be an unpleasant experience. So what are some of the things I can do to avoid it?
Pretty simple, Dave. Stay in compliance. That means filing all your taxes and ideally paying them. But we know if you can't pay them, you can be on an installment agreement or perhaps currently not collectible status.
Okay, so it is a compliance-related question.
Absolutely.
Okay, lastly, let's talk about enforcement. What's been happening with enforcement recently?
Collections is a big part of this puzzle. And in particular, we've seen a spike in revenue officer activity amongst taxpayers.
Okay, so is the IRS being more strategic?
Absolutely. I think they're employing their resources, but it's not just those that owe a lot of money. We've seen them assign taxpayers who haven't filed or even filed but owe very little.
All right, so non-filers alert. Is that what you should be thinking?
Absolutely.
All right, so as we covered in our prior episodes, revenue officers are a different standard of enforcement, a higher standard. So if you are concerned about receiving a letter from a revenue officer, review those episodes and get the information you need. Phil, anything you want to say as we close out?
If you're worried about penalties, interest, snowballing, if you're worried about renewing your passport, or even concerned that you might be assigned to a revenue officer, do something.
And you can do something by reaching out to Optima, the largest and most successful tax resolution company ever. And we'd love to help you. That wraps up the show for today, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hey everyone, thank you for watching today. Please be sure to like
And subscribe.
so you're up to date with all the information you need when you're taking on the IRS.
And as always, do something.